you may have heard or you may have noticed or just felt that to run a business based on an expertise, you need to have a perspective. In fact, if you've talked to potential clients, they may have asked you, so what's your take on my problem? That is signal for you to realize that what they're asking for is your philosophy. The word perspective is really about how you look at a problem and where you stand based on that situation, that problem, that situation, really influences the way you look at a specific situation. In life, perspective is driven by where you stand. Are you above, below, right, left, front, center, wherever? But that's the analogy, that's the metaphor we're using in expertise business. Now, metaphorically, what this means is that all of your experiences, all of your background, the data that you have, all of your education, everything will influence the way you look at a situation. And so for you as an expert, it's important to consider all of those elements to build that perspective. Why why is a perspective important? It's because it's a chance. First of all, it's a chance for you to be authentic with the way you look at a situation. It's the chance to tell your truth, to speak your mind, and to really, give the most value to your clients by sharing what you see from where you stand. A perspective is also a great way. A perspective is a chance to disagree with your colleagues, also known as your competitors. Also, I don't like to use that term. I think markets are big enough to call our competitors colleagues or niche mates, and that we should collaborate with them instead of trying to go to war and fight with them. But that's another conversation. Yet, a perspective is a chance to disagree with your colleagues in a healthy way. Another layer to why it's important is because your perspective helps your client choose you. A good perspective is really based on your moral compass. It's the set of values that you hold and the things you know to be true that helps you shape that perspective over time. And so it's important for your clients, your potential clients, to understand what your perspective is so that they can choose to work with you with full knowledge of your values. And likewise, you want to also assess that fit and make sure that your clients are going to adhere, are going to comply or align with that perspective. That down the road, if you work with them, you're not going to be surprised because the project is not going well, or the coaching program or whatever you do is not going well because they just don't align with your perspective. So here is how I define perspective development. Perspective development is the exploration, diffusion, and utilization of a signature argument that you make in service of your audience's best interest. There you have it. This is my summary of what perspective development. As you can see here, it's not a static thing, it's a practice. It's something that you should really engage in on a frequent, regular, and consistent basis. In fact, I think that the most important word in this definition is the word exploration, because your perspective is always evolving. The perspective that you hold today will probably change over time because the conditions in your life, in your business, in your environment are changing. It's not static. So you need to constantly and frequently research that perspective. What is your perspective? For instance, when I do my monthly live webinar, if you've been to one of my webinars, and if you've not, I invite you to sign up, to sign in whenever I announce them. I just announced one yesterday, but when I do my monthly webinars, most of the time spent preparing for me is honing my perspective about the topic that I will cover. How do you do that? That's the key. That's the thing that if you have one thing you want to take away from this video is how do you do it? How do you do it? It's not as you know, my point of view is really my perspective. In fact, it's very meta here. My perspective on perspective development is very much about action. It's about taking action. It's not going to be about you thinking more deeply and praying and going through a series of introspective exercise. I mean, yes, they can be reflection, but very importantly, there needs to be action. So what kind of action am I talking about? Number one is practicing and being better and better and better at your craft. Um, and really noticing in your craft and as you work with your clients, what is your take on their situation? This is really what their clients come to see you for. That's the value they find. What is the take that you have on their situation? So a good way to really emphasize that practice and continue to constantly hone your perspective is to always start your project and your engagement with a diagnosis, with a moment to say, hey, before we jump in, before I commit to solving this problem for you, let me step back here and ask you a few questions and let us get situated and have some sort of assessment phase. One of my assessment phases is called an alignment check. This is where I will check if an organization is aligned with its purpose, if people are aligned, if the processes, if the mindsets are aligned to the same, roughly the same direction, so that the company is focused and makes traction. So that's an example here. Another way to practice perspective development is through meaningful publication. It's through writing. It's through expressing your point of view um, and using your point of view to express what you see about client issues, concerns, situations, or wants also publicly. That's really one of the most essential things that needs to happen in your practice. And if you don't have an email list or if you don't have a recurring announcement on one of your favorite social media platforms such as Substack or LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, wherever, well, get on it. Start now. This is your responsibility. Your responsibility as an expert, your duty is to really engage in that activity. That's one of the healthiest things you can do for your business. Now, an additional value, an additional benefit to engaging in meaningful publication, on top of honing your perspective, is also to create outreach. It's a way to reaching out to clients and tell them, hey, I'm here, and here is what I think about the situations that you might be running into. Now, how often should you engage in that activity? Like I said, it's almost a daily thing. I engage in perspective development every day, almost 7 days a week. I do it publicly 5 days a week these days through my YouTube channel. Now I started doing also YouTube Shorts, which really is another layer of how I practice developing my perspective. And obviously on LinkedIn, I also have an active email list, and I diversify those channels and I engage on a recurring basis into that activity. So there you have it. I hope that this motivates you, this inspires you to develop a perspective that is really your own, that is nobody else's. Not because you want to compete more aggressively, but more because you are interested in finding your own truth, in clarifying the sets of beliefs that manifest in your practice, and in clarifying your values. Hopefully, this helps you go on a better journey to finding and bringing to life your own personal business narrative, your own personal business legend, and the journey that you ought to experience through entrepreneurship. I hope this helps. And as always, I welcome your comments, questions, reactions, pushbacks, moments, aha moments, moments of enlightenments, or additional thoughts on this very, very big topic, but very crucial topic. Thank you so much.